Hey everybody, what's up? Dunbar Snack Bar here with episode 3 of Let's Talk Baseball. Got some MLB 2K11 going on in the background with the American League Legends and the National League Legends. This will be kind of fun, but this episode's going to be a little bit different too because I've got LTPFear here with us. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just glad to be on this little show we have here.
Right on. Well, I know this is your first time on the show, so a lot of people are going to, want to know a little bit about you. Go ahead and tell us about yourself.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm just kind of like a smaller YouTuber. Don't have very many subs, but I just do this because I love it, and I'd like to talk baseball. I like to talk baseball and do a few other things on my channel, and I'm more of a commentator that gets straight to the points and it gets down to how you play the position. I've done a few videos in my good majority of MLB videos where I just talk about either my experiences in baseball, and because I am a senior in high school, which doesn't seem very, very interesting, but trust me, it is. And I also I know a lot about the positions. I've learned from major leaguers, actually. I've talked to them, I've been to little conferences and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like you guys, if you come to my channel, you will enjoy it, and that's basically all I got to say.
Right on. Well, I definitely recommend stopping by his channel. I'll probably say that again a little bit later. But yeah, go ahead, drop by. Well, what we're going to be talking about here for this episode, I mean, this is kind of what's been going on around baseball in the major leagues lately, is the Hall of Fame. And I thought that this year was kind of interesting. LTP Fear, I know you kind of agreed with this too, but you'd say this year was kind of a weak ballot, wouldn't you?
Oh my Lord. I mean, you look at some of the names, and like, I'm not downing on baseball in general, but it just seems like it wasn't a very strong ballot. And some of these guys I didn't even know like much about, and I watch baseball pretty frequently enough where I know big names, and I honestly haven't heard of some of these guys. But I do agree, it's kind of a weak ballot, but we pushed through it, didn't we?
Yes, we did. No, I mean, some people were even going so far as to say that there was a possibility that nobody could make it into the Hall of Fame this year. Luckily, that was not the case. We'll, of course, kind of tell you who made it into the Hall of Fame here. But just so you guys know how the whole process works, the Baseball Writers Association of America, they are obviously the baseball writers, for newspapers, for MLB, stuff like that. Now, for those of the writers who have been in there for 10 years, they get an opportunity to be able to vote for Hall of Famers. And so for the Hall of Famers who get over 75% of the votes, they're inducted into the Hall of Fame. If you get less than 5%, I mean, you're just done with the ballot. You can be on there for 15 years, which some of them have taken that long to be able to make it. But this year, the only player to make it to the Hall of Fame was Barry Larkin. And LTP Fear, what do you think about that?
Again, back to what I was saying, it's kind of surprising that, well, at least my pick, I was really rooting for my pick, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Barry Larkin, do you mind telling me some of his stats? Because like I said, he's kind of an unknown character to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing about Barry Larkin. I mean, one of the things that I love, he was born and raised in Cincinnati, and he spent his whole 19-year career in Cincinnati playing for the Reds. So I thought that was super cool. Now, he was a 12-time All-Star. He was a 9-time Silver Slugger winner here, and a 3-time Gold Glove winner as well. Now, the thing about the Gold Glove that's kind of interesting is he was playing at the same time of Ozzie Smith, who is one of the best shortstops to ever play the game as well. And so some people feel that Ozzie Smith got some of the Golden Gloves at the time when, towards the end of his career, when Barry Larkin should have won it. So you can't really go by that. He was great on the defensive side. I mean, obviously playing shortstop at the major league level, you're going to be good, but it was really his offense that set him apart. His batting average, he hit 295, home runs 198. The thing that's important about that, I mean, you kind of look at 295 and you're like, wow, that's not even over 300. But when you take a look at the time, the other shortstops in the league were batting 256. So that's a significant increase against what others were kind of hitting at the time. And he was actually the first shortstop to get 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases in the same season. So when you take a look, obviously, stolen bases equate to speed, power in the home runs, and he had a fairly decent batting average. I mean, this guy all around was a great, great player. So I think he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I know you and I got a chance to talk about this a little bit earlier, but with only Barry Larkin on there, I mean, do you feel that anybody else should have made it into the Hall of Fame this year?
Actually, I do have an opinion on that. I think that Barry Larkin, my bad. Based on what you were telling me, actually, that's very, very good numbers. and I think that those numbers are kind of comparable to this other guy I'm about to bring up, Jack Morris. And some of you guys have probably never heard of him, but I'll tell you what I found. He has 254 wins. First of all, that is more than a good majority of the actual Hall of Famers that are there right now for pitchers. It's more than Sandy Koufax, more than Don Drysdale, and it's more than Whitey Ford. Come on, man. That's the closest to 300 wins we are going to get probably forever. Um, and then he has 2,478 strikeouts. That's also more than Sandy Koufax and a few other guys that are in the Hall of Fame. And the big thing to me is actually the fact that he's played most of the games over 18 seasons. He's played 549 games over 18 seasons. That is incredible to have a pitcher with that much endurance to go the longest yard, so to say. And but the only thing, and this is kind of a kicker too, the only thing, and I think the main reason he did get in for because he's been on the ballot for 13 consecutive years, is his 3.9 ERA. But this is also coming into another thing. This is kind of around the steroid era, and people are hitting a lot harder, and so that could kind of attribute to the fact that he has such a high ERA, but that would be the highest ERA in the Hall of Fame, and I think that's the reason why they pinned it on him and said you're not in. Try again next year. That's what I think.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game has changed a lot since, a lot of the, older pitchers. I mean, you take a look, the walls have come in a lot more. The newer ballparks aren't as pitcher friendly. I mean, they got less foul territory to put more seats in there and
Oh,
stuff like that.
definitely.
And I think it really started about, the time that Jack Morris was kind of in full swing. So, I mean, you can't really take a look at the ERA. I think with the kind of pitcher that he was more of like the big game type of pitcher too. He just went in there and he got it done, whatever needed to be. But, I mean, you being a pitcher, you kind of understand that ERA isn't everything. I mean, what would you look for in a pitcher when you're looking at Hall of Fame?
Well, I have pitched before, and I do think it accounts to a few other things, and definitely strikeouts has something to do with it, and overall wins. The fact is, if you have a lot of wins, that means you're doing something right, because you're not going to give up 8 runs unless you have a really good team to back you up on those hitting wise. But you're not going to give up 8 runs and and win the game. So this guy had to have done some crazy stuff to get 254 wins. That tells you right there he's a good pitcher. And the fact that he had this dedication where a lot of pitchers in this time period are getting hurt constantly and constantly. The fact that he played 549 games over 18 seasons means this guy is a veteran, and that takes a lot, especially on people's arms, because pitching, of course, is an unnatural motion. Softball players would know that underarm is the way to go because it doesn't tear up your ligaments. But pitching, because it tears up the ligaments, and because this guy throws access it over to 90 miles an hour. That's really hard on a pitcher's arm and their stamina to go long distance in games. So I think that attests to the fact that he's strong-willed and determined to get his spot. And that's what I think is most important in a pitcher is the longevity and the fact that you can actually get those wins.
Absolutely. Now, to kind of let you guys know a little bit about some of the other players that made it, I mean, if you want to take a look at the full list of everybody who was on the ballot, who made it, who didn't. Jeff Bagwell, somebody who I was hoping would get in, 56% of the votes. Lee Smith had 50.6%. Tim Raines, 48.7%. So kind of skipping down a little bit here, too. I think these were kind of important to note. Mark McGwire, 19.5%, and Rafael Palmeiro, 12.6%. Now, obviously, performance-enhancing drugs, and the steroids and everything like that kind of, is something that's really hurting these guys. And when we take a look at next year for the 2013 ballot, we've got Craig Biggio coming up, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Mike Piazza, Kurt Schilling, and Sammy Sosa. Now, based on, what we've seen so far, LTPFear, who do you think out of those guys, again, Biggio, Bonds, Clemens, Piazza, Schilling, and Sosa, who do you think is going to make it in, and who do you think is not going to make it into the Hall of Fame? Not necessarily just on this first ballot, but just if they're ever going to make it into the Hall of Fame.
Well, that's it, and again, 3 out of those 5 guys you mentioned have been accused or found out to be, so to say, quote unquote, cheating. Well, 2 of them, performance-enhancing drugs, Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds. We all know about that, and Sammy Sosa, of course, with the bats, cork bats. but that's kind of is a big turnoff to me in the ballot. The fact that they have three of those guys on the same ballot, but I think the real star here is Craig Biggio and Mike Piazza. Probably one of the best hitting catchers, Mike Piazza, of all time, and Craig Biggio, 3,000 hits. That is, in my book, a guaranteed in because 3,000 hits. That's something that you don't see every day, or it won't see for till like several years. You know what I mean? It's a really good accomplishment. It's a good milestone, and it tests to how good a hitter he was. Also, I believe Craig Biggio was one of the guys that played a lot of games, like Jack Morris, and yeah, he played over a constant season. He never really got injured that much, if I'm correct. But
Yeah, Craig Biggio was actually known. I thought this was super cool. He was actually known for taking the most hits or like up at the plate and taking the most hits and being hit by the pitch more than anybody else. It was kind of like an ongoing thing, and for him to have that longevity too would be pretty sweet. I'm hoping Craig Biggio makes it in because I think it'd be super cool to have him and Jeff Bagwell, as teammates, for the longest time and really helped out the Astros organization be inducted together. Nobody has been inducted into the Hall of Fame wearing an Astros cap, and so
I know.
for these two guys, I think it would be awesome. Now, I was kind of reading up on what people were already saying about the 2013 ballot, and some people who do have the opportunity to vote for the Hall of Fame said that they're not going to vote for oddball Barry Bonds, for Roger Clemens and Sammy Sosa the first few times to kind of prove a point, so to speak, but they may vote for him down the road. Personally, I don't think that is, the right thing to kind of do. Personally, I think, obviously performance-enhancing drugs, you cheated. Who knows if the numbers that you really have, you would have gotten if you had not taken the performance-enhancing drugs. Like, for example, Barry Bonds, I don't think there's any way he would have been able to break the career home run record had he not used steroids. Now, I know there's a number of different camps on everything here, and people kind of believe in one thing or another. I take a pretty tough stance against it. Like, if you were on the Mitchell report or any other report or proven that you had taken steroids, personally, I don't think you should get into the Hall of Fame. I think it's a sacred place in baseball, kind of reserved for the best players and the best people in the game. But I kind of wanted to get your opinion, LTPFear. I mean, what do you think should happen with some of these players who have been known to take the performance-enhancing drugs?
Well, the fact is, and I take a pretty tough standpoint too, but not as tough. But I do feel there should be some repercussion for people that actually will, like, maybe diminishing their stats a little bit. Saying that if we have confirmed number of years, like how long they've actually used these drugs, erase those stats from the book. If the rest of the stats they have are good enough, then that means, hey, they're worthy of the Hall of Fame with or without the drugs. Because their previous stats prove it. But then again, you never know. There could be so many different scenarios where, okay, this guy's lying, this guy's telling the truth. You never know. It could be a big fiasco. So the other thing I do want to point out, especially in Barry Bonds' case, before I get to the actual, like, just cut and dry, don't let them in. But Barry Bonds, do you remember ever seeing a documentary on ESPN about? This is when he actually broke the home run record and started hitting all these home runs. And I'm sure Hank Aaron was furious, but he just didn't show it. But you know, they showed a picture of him, a video of him, kind of like in a game, and then allegedly that's around the time he started taking the steroids. And then it showed another video about 2 weeks later, and he went from this tiny guy, very tiny, very fast, he was already a good hitter, but very fast, very tiny guy, to a monster, like just a bulked up monster. I'm sure you've seen that. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that. But what the thing is, though, and this is the cut and dry part I was speaking of, is that it's a drug. Why else would they take this? Why would they take it if it didn't help you? If it didn't help you, there would be no reason to take it. So that they have a motive behind taking these kind of performance-enhancing drugs. So, I mean, hey, if a guy in the locker room says, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the MLB because I'm taking these drugs. You want to try some?" I'm of course gonna say no, because that's just a good thing to do. But this guy's gonna go to the MLB for whatever reason because he took these drugs. and it helps. So it helps a lot more than people give credit to.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's kind of ridiculous, and I think that of course these guys, because once you're in the Hall of Fame, you can't get out. You're not there's no exile in the Hall of Fame. There's no banishment. You're in the Hall of Fame for life, and after death. So if they get in, that would be the problem, and there's nothing we can do. But that's my overall standpoint on it.
Well, I mean, I could definitely see where you're coming from on stuff too, and I've been listening to some other people's perspectives because I think it's just the right thing to do to kind of, listen what other people are thinking and just try to, adopt your own, beliefs, through some information that you gather. One thing though, I thought was kind of interesting that somebody brought up, and I kind of wanted to get your take on this too. Some people are saying, what, after some time, go ahead and let them in. Um, it's something that, they're thinking that time heals all wounds, so to speak, or that, they'll kind of learn a lesson. But some people have been saying, if we take time and kind of, let this all play out and then forgive them, I mean, why don't we do this with some of the other people who have done wrong throughout baseball? People like Pete Rose, he has a lifetime ban, but some people are talking about even Shoeless Joe Jackson, who had that lifetime ban as well, and he's been, dead for years and years now. How do you think that performance-enhancing drugs and kind of the take baseball um, would have on it should relate to those other events as well, like with Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe?
Well, the thing is with that is that if we genuinely believe in America and baseball and MLB baseball that we should forgive and forget these terrible things that these people do. I mean, these guys are cheating the game. It's some of the things that just make the game not wholesome. Makes the game kind of just uneasy. You don't really want to watch something that someone's just cheating on. But I'm not going to go straight out and just be so blatant about it. I mean, I do feel that there should be a way, and I can't think of it on my own. This is something that the Hall of Fame committees would have to think of. But there's got to be a way to give repercussions to these guys because I do believe that some of these guys are legit. Some of these guys, even without the drugs, were probably really good players. And Barry Bonds is a good example. Barry Bonds was actually a decent player. He went from decent to great from the drugs. But I mean, hey, now back to Pete Rose. Pete Rose, he's an amazing hitter, honestly, and he should have had every right to be in Hall of Fame, in my opinion. But the thing is, and it's not cheating what he did. He he bet on others people's games. To the best of my knowledge, at least, he bet on other people's games in his own game. Saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna win this game." It's more cocky. It's more arrogant. And as a social icon, as a figure, and in the media, then I can understand why being mad at him would be, that kind of a repercussion. But you should not take away this guy's all-time hitting stat. That that is something that will probably never be broken, ever. And I think that he deserved that. And the fact that he only bet on games that based out of arrogance, it should be overlooked. But overall cheating and the performance-enhancing drugs. Now, Shoeless Joe Jackson's another interesting story, but I don't believe we should side with him either because Shoeless Joe uh, basically got an offer for him and a few other teammates to lose the game. That is unacceptable because that's basically cheating for hire. Cheating for hire, getting paid to lose a game. That's unacceptable. But in Pete Rose's case, I think we should overlook this kind of thing and definitely allow him into the Hall of Fame. He's been such a great figure in sports, and we'll always remember him for the things he's done batting wise. But performance enhancing drugs, no. Cheating on the game in general, no. Betting, who cares? That's my standpoint on that.
Right on. No, I mean, it's just like I look at oddball Barry Bonds here, and it's just like, I think he would have had a Hall of Fame career had he not taken the performance enhancing drugs. And then he goes ahead and basically changes everything that made him great. He was quick. He could, hit the ball into the gap. I mean, granted, he could still do that, after he had taken the performance enhancing drugs. I mean, he could still hit into the gap, but he was hitting things a lot farther. And I think he completely changed who he was. What I think kind of hurts me the most here, of course, they were trying to give themselves an advantage. I mean, you as a player, and I know that I was doing this too when I was playing baseball. I mean, sure, I do whatever I could to give myself the edge, but I wouldn't alter myself to be able to get that. And baseball players, I mean, a lot of people say this, but these people are more than players. I mean, they're role models. I don't think there's any way that you can put a positive spin on this, for kids who are, growing up in baseball. And, you oddball Barry Bonds becomes one of their favorite players, or Sammy Sosa or Roger Clemens, and even some of the other people who are coming up in ballots down the road. You cannot put a positive spin on what they did. And I think that just hurts the game of baseball in its entirety. I mean, I look at baseball, of course, as America's pastime. There's a lot of great things and great qualities about baseball that I think make it superior than some of the other sports. And this has no place in what baseball stands for, in my opinion. So I think I'm kind of hurt, that knowing these guys would kind of do it too, especially when some of these guys used to be my favorite players, and then I come to find out, well, what they were doing wasn't really, 100% them. I mean, it was them plus some other kind of chemical that they were shooting in their butt or their arm to try and make them better, So personally, I hope that these guys do not make it into the Hall of Fame. I know that may offend some people and everything, but like oddball Barry Bonds, the Sultan of Snot, I mean, I think that just kind of hurts. I mean, he's got one of the best records that anybody could ever have in their career. And I mean, it's just not real, in my opinion. Like, I don't think that he should have that record. And, but I don't know. That's just kind of my take on performance-enhancing drugs. And I
do have a question really quick, actually. Yeah. You should probably tell them why you call Barry Bonds oddball Barry Bonds. I'd like to hear this again.
Okay. So I call Barry Bonds oddball Barry Bonds all the time because his mistress said in court that when he was taking the steroids, his testicles shrunk. So I call him oddball Barry Bonds because he's got small testicles. So.
That gets me every time, honestly. You gotta laugh at that, honestly.
So I don't know. I just don't like the guy, so I take a crack at him every time I can.
Yeah, I more or less have kind of a biased standpoint too as well, because I grew up watching the Braves, and I love the Braves and everything they're made of. They play with class, and then Hank Aaron, probably the classiest man on the planet, in terms of just being proud of himself and proud of his teammates that he played with, and the fact that he would go. Even though he knows Barry Bonds illegitimately broke his title, so to say, and he still gave a video presentation when it happened, saying, "It's Barry, good job, you earned it." That takes class, and that's something that I think we should never take away from Hank Aaron. The fact that he stood up for Barry Bonds, well, who knows what he did behind the scenes, but he stood up for Barry Bonds in front of the world and said, "Hey, here's my title. You didn't earn it, but here's my title."
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like people like Hank Aaron, Lou Gehrig, and some of these other guys, who I think of, they are what baseball represents. I mean, they're humble, good people. And then, I look at some of these people, on next year's ballot and ballots down the road, people who I grew up watching, and I just don't feel like that they're those kind of people anymore, especially with, them taking the steroids and everything like that. Like, I feel like baseball's lost something with our generation.
It's definitely a little more corrupt, in my opinion, with the whole steroid scandal, and I think that baseball needs to go back into more of the golden age, more of the silver age too. Like, the time when Nolan Ryan was there, the time when the Ty Cobb and Christy Mathewson, even though Ty Cobb had a temper, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I mean, like, these guys played the game to play the game, and they played it because they loved it. It's not all about the money to them. And now we see superstars making their prime time decisions for all the media based on the money. Like Prince Fielder probably will go anywhere the money leads them. And as much as I hate to say it, Albert Pujols is the same way. Albert Pujols is kind of one of my modern idols right now, but he falls in the same category with all the modern people, modern players, and it's basically they're all money hungry. And it's a shame that the game has kind of turned into this little, I have more money than you, I have a bigger signing bonus than you, and I'll play for this team. You know what I mean? It's just kind of disappointing, but I'm still gonna watch the game. Hopefully, it doesn't get any more like worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got to end this up. I think we've already ran over a little bit, but
yeah,
that's all right. That's what happens when we talk baseball. But we're definitely gonna have to have you back on, man, because you know, great conversations, everything like that. You know, I think it'll be great to do some more of these videos down the road. But thanks again, guys, for watching. Like I said, check out LTPFear's channel. Definitely good stuff. I mean, if you like the baseball videos I put up, you'll love his too. So again, thanks for watching. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, subscribe if you haven't already. LTPFear, do you have any of that stuff like Twitter, or do you have the Facebook account?
Well, I don't have a Facebook for anything other than my personal account. I don't want to give that out just yet.
Right.
I'm
No,
not ready to make that many friends, but
no,
I do have a Twitter, but I'm not really active on the Twitter because I haven't really started. You know, I'm just kind of like there to follow other people. But I hopefully I'll get all that soon. Started up with more subs and more people that are actually going to actively watch me. Then I'll worry about all of that. But I do appreciate that so to say, shout out.
Hey, no problem, man. All right, we'll still go over to LTP Fear stuff too. Like I said, check it out. But anyway, you guys are awesome. Thanks again, and